Mexico, Canada, and Latin America are some places Americans are fleeing seeking solace. What exactly is chasing Americans out of their land? The risk of being homeless due to high housing cost and general high cost of living are making Americans flee in search of better opportunities, quality of life, and health care. For a land like America, it is hard to picture a homelessness crisis touching the lives of millions, robbing them of stability, security, and dignity. More than 600,000 Americans have no roofs over their head when it's time to sleep, and this does not include others who live in shelters. The figures rise up to 1 million. In today's video, I'll be sharing the causes, challenges, and potential solutions surrounding the crisis affecting too many Americans. Welcome back to another episode of Unraveling the World's Socio-Economic Issues as it concerns you. Stay with me as we explore American housing problems. Homelessness in America has refused to be an issue that gets brushed aside as it continues to rear its ugly head nearly on every street you turn. It makes it hard to ignore. Los Angeles and New York have the highest record of homeless people. This fact has impacted the lives of individuals, families, and communities nationwide. In the next couple of minutes, I'll be revealing to you just why America has a staggering number of homeless people. We'll be looking at the overwhelming numbers and discussing the seriousness of this problem. Americans are searching for places within and outside the country where life could be much better. States like Iowa, Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee have seen more people come in recent times as they have a much lower living cost compared to states like California, New York, and the capital, Washington, D.C. Let's look at one of the causes of homelessness: unaffordable housing. But of course, this is the one fact that takes the cup for being why thousands are out on the street every night. Many people face unimaginable hardships. You go outside, see random people, and have no idea what most of them go through. Housing is not cheap. America attracts all sorts of people from everywhere because of its lure. The concentration of job opportunities in urban area has caused the demand for housing to increase. This in turn has led to the increase in prices of available houses. It makes the field awfully uneven for lower income earners who then have to search for cheaper housing options. This in turn has led to the increase in prices of available houses. It makes the field awfully uneven for lower income earners who then have to search for cheaper housing options, and most times without success. The number of those that are affordable is insufficient to meet with the demand, and the struggle to get one is fierce. Access to low-income housing programs is limited too, and so, left with no other option, many are forced to lay their heads out in the cold. These are some of the reasons why there are many Americans moving to other states like Tennessee, Idaho, Utah, and Texas, among others, where there have been better chances to meet their basic needs. Some of them are even moving to Mexico. You can check it out about the benefits of living in Mexico in my previous videos, where I unraveled the mystery behind Mexico as a first choice for families choosing to relocate. These states have a much more reduced cost of living. They offer you the opportunity to meet your needs and live with dignity. Housing, which is our focus here, is reasonably cheap. They go as low as 30% less than national prices. You can own a home in a short time. Following closely behind unaffordable housing and why you should consider relocating is unemployment and low wages. Let's face it, no one would complain of housing being expensive or unavailable if they had more than enough to pay. Many individuals and families are struggling to meet rising living costs. Those who have a job are not living any better than those who do not have a job. Get this, some of the homeless people you see, they've got jobs. Hardly believable, but that's it. They go to work, but their income doesn't allow them to afford a decent home. While the cost of living increases, wages haven't. In the United States, the minimum wage has gone up around 350% since 1970. The Consumer Price Index has increased by over 480%. Prices are increasing every day rapidly, but income is struggling to keep up with these prices. There are a lot of important things demanding attention from such a limited income. Let's look at healthcare, which is very expensive. Less than half the country's population can afford insurance. This translates to spending huge amounts of money on healthcare. Of course, you and I are going to put off going to the hospital for as long as we can, until we can't anymore. And when we eventually land in the hospital, the problem has become too serious, and the bill we'll have to pay becomes too much for our miserly income to handle. What happens then? You got it. Homelessness. Then there's the other group who have no job. When people with jobs struggle with homelessness, what hope is there for those who have no job? Being homeless only makes it more difficult to get a decent job because of the permanent address feature. I mean, where does a person like that say they live under the homeless address category? It'll be hard to break out of this cycle without having a job. Homeless individuals often face discrimination and prejudice from employers, hindering their chances of securing jobs even when they have the necessary qualifications. Does this mean the government isn't doing anything about this to make it easier for homeless people to get jobs? I'll let you know in a minute. A person who once had a good job suddenly gets dropped from work for one reason or another. Well, keeping up with the bills is going to be impossible, and if you see a landlord who's going to charge nothing for me to stay at his nice apartment, do let me know in the comments section below, as it will mean a lot to me. Now back to America's homelessness problem. Mental health issues are another reason why people are homeless. In the US, around 30% of chronically homeless people have mental health conditions. In 2017, the National Coalition for the Homeless found that 38% of homeless people depend on alcohol. Now, when you hear mental health issues, it doesn't always mean these people are responsible for being in that position. These are problems most of them have no control over, and there are a lot of people out there with zero empathy, making life more difficult for such people. Without treatment services, it's very difficult for someone to break the cycle. Mental health victims are humans too, and they deserve to get help from the government. Those people who worry about mental health people being a nuisance in society could try to show more empathy. Without treatment services, it's very difficult for someone to break the cycle. Shortly, I'll be sharing some difficult reasons, bitter truths about the cause of the homelessness situation in America. There are various reasons a person could be going through some challenges. Disputes can lead to individuals, especially youth, leaving home and becoming homeless. Victims of domestic violence can flee their homes in search of safety, leading to homelessness. Women and children are especially vulnerable to violence-triggered loss of a home. Most people who run away from danger do so without a proper backup plan, and they end up living in cars, shelters, or the street. Natural disasters too, such as hurricanes or floods, as well as wildfires, can displace people from their homes and contribute to temporary or long-term homelessness. You see, one can never know, right? So, we can be kinder to the homeless. Racism, another important fact, is another major cause of homelessness in America. I guess we were all wrong to think all of that ended with the Black Lives Matter saga. According to research from the National Alliance to End Homelessness and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Black Americans are 3 times more likely to lose housing. Racism isn't peculiar to Blacks. Most races that are minors in the United States experience homelessness at a higher rate than the white population. We have the Native Hawaiians, Pacific Islanders, and the Native Americans right in the mix of the homeless lot. Many of these people don't work in positions they're qualified for as a result of their race. It's 2023. People ought to be past this already. Well, without good jobs, stable incomes, and other privileges, there's no mystery as to why these sets of people are seen more on the streets. Okay, right now, we'll be looking at how the government fits into this. Let's talk about systemic failures. Homelessness occurs when society fails to identify and support people at risk of becoming unhoused. If correct measures are followed, the number of homeless individuals will be tremendously reduced. When the government doesn't meet up in areas like correctional services, healthcare services, and child welfare, homelessness becomes one of the consequences the society deals with. Government funding for affordable housing programs has not kept pace with demand, leaving many individuals on wait lists for housing assistance for years. Then there are individuals with a history of incarceration or substance abuse. Once they get spat out back into society, there's no clean way for them to get reintegrated into society. Not many people would want to employ the services of an ex-convict. These are the issues. When there are no adequate plans made for those trying to get their lives back on track, we're only exposing them to more risks. I mean, leave them inside if they'll have no way to provide for themselves, right? Just kidding. But these are factors that should be considered by the government as they release people back into the system. The government is responsible for the welfare of its citizens, and the homeless should be at the top of its list of problems to pay attention to. Having a home is a basic need and should not be seen as a luxury. To address the homelessness crisis in America effectively, affordable housing initiatives, income support programs, improved access to mental health services, and measures to reduce income inequality should be put in place to help create a more equitable society and provide pathways out of homelessness for those in need. Your effort and mine are needed too, as the concerted effort of communities cannot be brushed away. Together, we can make America great again.